Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, you guys have sent in some really powerful writing from someone who's on this incredible journey of recovery and resilience.
It's really something.
I mean, we're talking about someone who's not only dealing with the aftermath of a really serious illness,
Right.
but also learning to walk again.
Uh-huh.
And a mysterious encounter that kind of changes everything.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, to set the scene a little bit, the author's recovering from this major surgery after being really, really sick, life-threatening stuff.
Yeah.
Her family's actually moving back to the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
and she's staying in Belgium to have this surgery.
Wow.
And what really struck me was, even with all of this upheaval in her life, she seems to have this really profound sense of, inner strength.
I totally agree. It's like this acceptance,
Yeah.
this deep sense of peace.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable.
And the way she describes her family leaving,
Yeah.
it's almost like she's observing it from a distance.
Yeah. There's a real sense of detachment there.
Right. But not in, a cold way
No, not at all.
or an uncaring way. It's more like,
It's like she trusts
yeah,
that her path is unfolding exactly as it should.
exactly. It's like a deep-seated trust
Mm-hmm.
in her own journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then she meets Kelda.
Right.
And this is where things get really interesting.
This is where the story takes a turn.
Right. Out of nowhere,
Yeah.
this older student just kind of appears
Yeah.
and basically steps in to take care of her.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's totally serendipitous.
I know, right? You couldn't script it?
I know. It's like something out of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how she talks about all these little details about their time together. Like they go on these crutch walks,
Uh-huh.
have banana milkshakes.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about pomander balls.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Those little details really paint a picture of their bond.
Don't they?
It's so clear how much Kelda's presence meant to her.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it makes it all the more
Sad. When she mentions Kelda's passing,
right.
it's just this brief mention,
Yeah.
but it really underscores
I know.
how profound
Yeah.
their connection was.
It really was.
And yet, through it all, there's this thread of gratitude
Yeah.
that runs through the author's words.
Absolutely.
A deep appreciation
Yeah.
for the time they had together.
So, okay, let's talk about this idea of soul connections because she brings this up.
Yes.
What do you think about that concept?
I think, this experience with Kelda
Mm.
really seems to have been like a turning point
Yeah.
for the author. Like
Right.
she's starting to view her relationships
Mhm.
through a different lens,
Oh.
one that acknowledges
Yeah.
a deeper meaning,
Right.
a purpose.
It's like she's shifting from this purely physical understanding of her recovery
Right.
to something that's much more spiritual.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
And then she talks about souls sent to teach. Yes.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's so interesting because she connects it not just to Kelda,
Yeah.
but to her recovery from the illness itself.
Oh, wow.
Like she sees
yeah.
this past year,
Mm-hmm.
not simply as a time of physical healing,
Okay.
but as a period of profound spiritual learning.
Oh, I like that.
And it's important to remember here
Yeah.
that she's not shying away from the spiritual at all.
Right.
She's actively seeking spiritual explanations,
Mm-hmm.
not just medical or scientific ones.
And this is particularly interesting, right?
Yes, it is.
Because, she's already had...
multiple out-of-body experiences
Right.
during her illness.
I'd completely forgotten about that.
She's had these glimpses beyond
Yeah.
the physical realm.
So by the time Kelda enters the picture,
Exactly.
she's already had these experiences.
She's primed
Yeah.
for these deeper spiritual insights.
Wow. Okay.
It's almost like those earlier experiences
Mm-hmm.
were preparing her.
Right. For this encounter.
Okay.
Opening her up
Yeah.
to the possibility
Yeah.
of these soul connections.
Wow.
So here we have someone
Yeah.
who has faced death.
Yeah.
Not once, but twice.
When her heart stopped.
Right. She was in a coma
Yeah.
for over 5 weeks.
Had to relearn to walk.
Yes.
Graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
Just had this major surgery where she has to retrain her brain to walk.
Yeah.
And has had these out-of-body experiences.
Right.
All in the span of a year.
It's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
But there's something incredibly inspiring
Yes.
about how she's not just surviving,
Yeah.
she's thriving.
Mhm.
And now,
Yeah.
She's exploring these deeper questions
I know.
about the meaning of life and the
Hmm.
interconnectedness
Yeah.
of it all.
It really makes you wonder
It does.
if these kinds of experiences, as tough as they are, can actually open us up to like a whole new understanding of ourselves and the world.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? It seems like that's exactly what the author's wrestling with.
So let's dig a little deeper into these soul connections. What do you think she means by that? It feels kind of loaded.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those phrases that can have different meanings for different people. But for her, I think it's pointing to those relationships, the ones that really leave a mark on us,
Oh.
the people who come into our lives. And you kind of get the sense it's for a reason, even if you don't know what it is at the time.
So it's not just like having a ton of friends or whatever. It's about those deeper connections.
Exactly, the ones that shape who we become.
Okay, so she's saying those connections aren't random.
It seems that way, like there's some kind of purpose behind them, something bigger orchestrating it all.
She even talks about soul connections coming from different times,
Right.
like past, present, future.
Which is wild when you think about it. It suggests maybe our idea of linear time is a little limited.
Okay, hold on. So much to unpack here. How do we even know if we've had one of these soul connections?
Right. That's the question. There's no easy answer. But she talks about paying attention to your intuition, to those times when you feel like you really resonate with someone,
Oh, go ahead.
almost like you've known them before.
It's trusting your gut feeling.
Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
But also being open to the idea that those connections can pop up anywhere, even in difficult relationships.
Wait, so those people who really push our buttons could be soul connections.
Well, think about it. We learn some of our biggest lessons from going through tough times, right? From those
Yeah.
relationships that challenge us.
Makes you wonder if it's all kind of connected.
Exactly. Like, it's not always about feeling comfortable and happy. Sometimes it's about those experiences that make us confront our weaknesses.
Okay, that's a really interesting way to look at it.
It is.
It reminds me of how she talks about relearning to walk, not just once, but twice.
Oh, right.
After the coma and then after this crazy surgery.
Talk about resilience.
It's incredible.
And she actually talks about having to retrain her brain to use different muscles.
Yeah, it's
It
insane.
really speaks to how adaptable our brains are.
But also how strong she is mentally. I mean, imagine having to basically rewire your brain to teach your body to move in a new way.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
like she was given a chance to not only physically heal, but also to reinvent her relationship with her own body.
Yeah, to understand it on a much deeper level.
Absolutely.
It's another example of those challenging experiences being opportunities for growth.
You got it. And she also refers to her doctors and nurses as souls sent to heal.
Right, so these soul connections, they're not just about our personal relationship.
Exactly. It could be anyone, really, who plays an important part in your journey. It could be a therapist, a teacher, even a stranger. The key is to really see the impact they have.
It makes you wonder if we're all kind of souls sent to teach each other, even when we don't know it.
Right?
What if every interaction we have, no matter how small, can actually change someone else's life?
Whoa, that's a powerful thought.
Makes you think twice about how you treat people,
It
right?
really does. What if we're all part of this bigger picture?
Okay, but she also talks about feeling like she was being carried, like guided through this whole recovery.
Mm-hmm.
If we're all connected like this, what does it mean to surrender to that?
It's a beautiful question, and I think it gets at what she's trying to say. It's not just about understanding it intellectually.
Okay.
It's about living it, trusting that we're not alone.
So having faith, not just in ourselves, but in something bigger.
Exactly. And it's not blind faith. It's about that deep inner knowing that we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
She also talks about this idea of being awake.
Yeah, it's like a state of being.
What do you think she means by that?
Well, she mentions honesty, attunement, and trust.
Okay, break that down for me.
I think honesty is about being true to yourself, not hiding from the truth even when it's hard. Attunement is like paying attention to the world around you, noticing those little things you might normally miss. And trust, well, we were just talking about that. It's having faith in yourself and that larger force that connects us.
It's like she's describing a way of being more aware and more connected.
Exactly. It's about going beyond the surface, to a deeper level of awareness where you can really see how everything's connected.
Maybe that's where the magic of these soul connections comes from.
I think you might be right. When we're present, when we're attuned, when we're open to it, that's when we find them.
This has been amazing.
It really has.
What's the one thing you want our listener to take away from today?
Be open to the soul connections in your own life. Pay attention to those relationships that feel important, even if you can't explain why. And remember, you're not alone. There's this incredible force of love and connection guiding you every step of the way.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to explore this more deeply?
I'd say look back on those relationships that have really impacted you, the good and the bad. Ask yourself what you learned from them. How did they shape you? And do you see any patterns when you think about them as soul connections?
That's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those connections that make life so meaningful.